There are those who walk among us, paving their way through time and carving out paths, creating spaces from the great beyond of our imagination. Because at the root of our reality, freedom is but a dream. The density of this truth creates a force that forms the world we wish to see. And curiosity is a guide that lights the way towards destiny.
In 1917, East St. Louis exploded into a racial conflict. There were over 300 black people who were murdered in East St. Louis at that time, and that was something that was still part of cultural memory. When I was born in 1942, there was something hanging in the air that people were reluctant to talk about, but that had a tremendous influence and impact on how we lived and where we lived as well. So those stories of 1917 were always in the background, hanging over the black community in the South End like a shroud.
Dr. Harry Edwards, a dedicated student with a vision for a better world, became an investigator of the parallels that the spirit of sport casts upon our waking life.
You know what I really mean.
Studying a cycle of similarities, revealing an echo of injustice throughout the nation.
I ended up coming up to San Jose because I had an athletic scholarship offer, and there was an individual on the athletic staff there by the name of Julie Menendez, who was the boxing coach. He was the one who first introduced me to Cassius Clay. We were both the same age. He had the team there training them for the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome. And when I got there were no black professors on the campus. There were no black coaches. They had never even interviewed a black coaching candidate. The fraternities and sororities were all segregated. So I stepped into a situation here that overall was simply challenging, to say the least, and racist in many ways.
Racial discrimination at San Jose State College seemed to center around two major problems. Harry Edwards held a press conference to discuss the situation.
I thought it was unfair for the athletic department not to stand up for us in terms of some of the academic arrangements and so forth on campus. So one day I went into the athletic department and I essentially called everybody out on it.
If any minority group on this campus is catching hell because of race, it's only a matter of time before they work back around us again. And so until the mess is cleared up for everybody, the mess is cleared up for nobody as far as we're concerned.
Even though I was a national discus record holder, they took the scholarship away. So I became a totally dedicated student. And by the time I graduated from San Jose State with honors, I had also been accepted at a number of graduate schools in sociology and chose to go to Cornell to compete in their PhD program. I came back to San Jose State to write my PhD dissertation and teach a class if I could get it. And my dissertation was published as the first integrated textbook in a new subdiscipline that it generated called the Sociology of Sport.
The genesis of a subject worthy of exploration, creating waves and unveiling the impurities of our society that dance with the essence of the sports that we've all grown to love. And what lies beneath is always reflected on the surface above.
It became very, very clear to me once I began an in-depth investigation of sport in society and developments at the interface of sport and society that sport recapitulates society. And you can no more have a non-racist sports institution in a substantially racist society. And what I set out to do with my dissertation was to not just to chronicle that, not just to prove that, but to demonstrate it. Whatever is in society inevitably comes over the stadium wall and is therefore available to be utilized to leverage change and to demonstrate a need for change in the broader social system. By the second semester I was teaching it, the only building that would hold the class numbers was the building that we're sitting in right now. The place was packed. Among those students who were in the class were Tommy Smith and the whole San Jose State track team, in point of fact. And we were in a time period from 1963 to 1968 was the most violent political era in American history since the Civil War. And this is not even counting the numbers of Black Panthers who were murdered. And we discussed that in this very classroom. And the athletes began to say, what do we do? How do we take a stand? How do we let America know that we have got to be better than this? And we began to have a whole semester of conversations about how sport can be leveraged to generate change in society. And this great athletic group decided they would make a statement that America was better than the 5 years of violent political chaos that marked 1963 through 1968 and the Mexico City Olympic Games.
Again, I stress these will not be demonstrations against the track meets. What we're going to do is to encourage all Black people to buy tickets to those track meets as a demonstration of community support for the Olympic Project for Human Rights.
Kareem boycotted the games altogether. Thomas Smith and John Carlos had a different way of presenting that same message. When they stood there in silence, creating the most iconic sports image of the 20th century. You don't make that kind of statement unless you really love and care about this nation.
John, what are you going to do now that you're back home?
Do you expect to meet with Harry Edwards today?
No comment.
Irrespective of what people felt about what they were doing, they had to respect the fact that they had the courage and the vision and the insight, and the commitment to do it. I had written a number of articles and given a number of interviews about developments at the interface of sport and society, and Bill Walsh gave me a call. He said, we need to sit down and have lunch. Then, of course, once I went to lunch with him up at the 49ers training camp, he put a full Walsh on me, and as a consequence, I've been with the 49ers for the last 40 years. We began to look at issues impacting the NFL. For example, he was very much concerned about the consequences of the demographic changes in the locker room. All of a sudden, you had a transition from overwhelmingly white locker rooms to a situation where Black athletes were becoming the majority. He was concerned about the numbers, the deficit in terms of Black coaches in the league. So he wanted to talk to me about starting a minority coaches outreach program. We had to have an understanding of what those athletes were bringing all the way to the NFL. And what that meant was that we had to have people who they could talk to. It was unthinkable in the early 1980s that the NFL would intervene if an athlete had a drinking problem, if an athlete had a domestic violence problem, if an athlete had a drug problem that didn't interfere with his playing. We decided, Bill Walsh and I, that we could put together programs that could be transported throughout the league to address all of these problems. And of course, the 49ers went on to win back-to-back Super Bowls, to be in the hunt every year, right on into the 1990s. And Bill Walsh considered these programs to be an integral part of that whole process.
I met Harry Edwards for the first time through Bill Walsh, who was another mentor of mine.
He flew out to San Francisco, and he attended a game. He asked the owners to leave the box, said, I want to spend this game with Dr. Edwards. And for the entire game, we discussed issues in the NFL, and he wanted me to do with him what I had done with Bill Walsh.
When he sees that opening, he's not afraid to walk through it. And he was very clear about some of the things that we're doing well, some of the things we're not doing so well, and the things that we should be doing that we may not be focused on.
And he said, Harry, where do I get my Harry Edwards? If I was really going to do with Roger what I had done with Bill Walsh, I would have to move from New York, and I wasn't going to leave Berkeley. I taught at Berkeley for 30 years, 4 classes a year, the largest classes in the university. So I wasn't going to leave Berkeley, and that is exactly what I told Roger. I will be here for you at every step of the way. I will stay in touch with you. I will continue to communicate with you. I'll let you know anything that I see on this side of the sports political horizon that you inevitably are going to have to deal with, because it's going to come over the stadium wall.
As a player, he was the model. He represented things that was important to me, my family, and my community. His ability to educate not only myself, but others around the sins of slavery, Jim Crow, to civil rights, to now what is deemed as social justice. To be able to thread that through generation and generation, and how the athlete shows up in a civic manner, in a professional manner, that is extraordinary.
All along, we kneel, we stand, we walk, we lift a hand with a growing knowing that our passionate actions are what lead us forward. Starting from the foundation of our ancestors' wildest dreams, woven from the threads of our collective longing to be free. As said by the great Muhammad Ali, don't count the days, make the days count.
I think Dr. Edwards, because of his study of society and sports and his deep understanding of it, helped us understand the position of the National Football League in society. How do we respond to these types of issues that are respectful to our communities, to the general public, to our players, to our teams?
People were saying, hey, this is not the place. Athletics and politics should not be. No, they do coexist. They've always coexist. After the kneeling, the anthem, Doc showed up in a meaningful way of true guidance. How do you organize? How do the athletes actually come together in a systematic way? This wasn't about bucking the system. This wasn't about just protest. How do you systematically take down or address the issue at hand? So that's invaluable.
Hey, brother, I love you. I love you so much. Hang on. You too, brother.
The fact that he could bring that perspective and that kind of expertise to us, I think helped us deal with these matters more effectively, more responsibly, and I think put the NFL on a much different journey, and a one that has benefited all of us.
This is part of the deal on this planet. It's part of the human condition and always has been. The only difference now is that it's my turn. And it's up to me to manage what I cannot either avoid or eliminate, so that those people around me, my family in particular, they too one day will come to this place. And I hope that they will be able to look back and say, if that old dude, if that wretch can deal with what he was dealing with with that kind of courage and that kind of grace and that kind of dignity, then I know that I can do at least as well. It is simply my turn, and I want to serve in this time that I have left.
Harry's been in some incredible situations. He gave me such an education in all those areas. It's made me more effective as a leader, as a commissioner. But more personally, it's giving me the opportunity to be a better person. That's a legacy that not many people are really able to give to others, and he gave that to me.
We're reminded that in this journey through time, we're able to make our ripples turn to waves that become change in the sea of freedom and equality. And as we honor the life's work of the ones who came before us, who worked through us, we honor the lessons taught by the ones who still walk with us, with a unified, sacred vision, a reality restored, renewed, reconnected, and remembered through our history, solidarity, and perseverance.
The struggle for those things that we're trying to achieve must therefore be multifaceted and perpetual, and there are no final victories. I've always held that teaching is the greatest of all professions, because unlike architecture or engineering or medicine or law, a teacher incites people to think and inspires them to learn so that they can do for themselves. What I'm most proud of is that I believe that I was a good teacher, and I fell in love with every class that I ever taught. I still get letters from former students and graduate assistants and readers who said, "You changed my life." I didn't change their life. They changed their lives based upon what they were able to learn. Young people today are so much smarter, so much intuitively knowledgeable than I was at their age. Their capabilities are limitless, but they've got to believe in themselves. They've got to learn to dream with their eyes open. I would like people who see this, if it's 100 years from now, I hope that people will remember me in terms of the contributions that I made, and even if they don't remember me, that they will say the sociology of sport was a contribution. And that's really about as much as you can say about anybody.